Hello, good afternoon. My name is Ian, and I'd like to welcome you to our presentation today. We'll be looking at some of the highlights of the latest release of the Priority ERP system, and I'll be using version 18.2 with the web or rich interface, as we call it, which is a prerequisite for the new functionality. I'm not going to attempt to show all the new features, they're too numerous for this brief presentation, but all are detailed in the release notes, which you can download using the webinar menu. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Just type your question directly into the webinar pane and we'll try to address it for you. Also, please fill out the survey that will be sent out after the webinar. This helps us improve for next time. And finally, please visit our webinar site to view previous webinars and upcoming events. The address is webinar.meditechuk.com. Okay, that's the formalities out of the way. On with the show. We're going to start by taking a look at the Word document generator. Priority, we're keen to make it easier for end users to create and modify documents produced from the system, such as quotes, invoices, etc. To facilitate this, it's now possible to create templates for Priority documents using the Word document generator. We're going to have a look at a live example, so I'll just switch to my live system, which is here. And for an example, I'm going to use order confirmation. If I select this and select an order, I'm presented with the new look dialog box. It has all the same functionality as the previous version. However, some of the less used icons have been hidden to keep it neat and tidy. They can be seen by simply selecting advanced additional options and can be toggled on or off. So let's say under the old method, I would select my document style from in here. Let's say, for example, detailed with image. Press OK, and as you would expect, here's our pretty standard Meditech document. So what if we want a different design or layout? Well, that's the interesting bit, and that's where we're going to have a look at making a new example. So I'm now able to define a template for this document using Word. So I'll click Order Confirmation again. But this time I'm going to click Design and then Design Word Template. Here's my new Word document generator box. So I'm now able to create a new document. Let's call it Sales Order Confirmation 1. Click New. And then that has now appeared here as my blank document. Okay, now I could start adding fields and start adding text and start designing my document, but it's always easier if you can base it on other data. So if I could take an existing document and copy it, makes life an awful lot easier. Unfortunately, Priority have provided standard templates for most of the popular documents. So I'm going to do just that. If I return to my Priority screen, I'm going to open up the standard order confirmation. Click on the edit. There it is. Okay, so I'm simply going to do a Control A and a Control C to copy the entire contents. And then I could paste that directly here into my new document. So let's make some edits. If I want to add some more fields, then I need to go into the Developer tab and turn on the XML mapping pane. And here you can see the available fields. So let's say I wanted to add a field, I don't know, remarks are there already, or maybe document status. Then we can simply click on it and select rich text. And the reason that we use rich text is that if any special formatting has been added in Priority, it will be brought through into the document. Obviously, then we can arrange these fields however we like. If I just turn on design mode, you'll see the start and end points of all of those fields. so we can modify the document and set it up as required. One quick point, you might not have a developer tab as it's turned off as standard. If you need to turn it on, go to Options and Customize Ribbon, and then halfway down on the right hand side you'll see the developer box. Just make sure it's tipped and you can get to the tab. Okay, now we need to save the new template. So we go to File, Save As, select the location, and importantly, it needs to be stored as a .x file, a Word template file. Okay, I've done that. So that's almost everything. All that remains now is to import it. We only did this the first time that we use it, and that's now ready to use. So if we go into order confirmation again, and this time select our order, rather than using a system document this time, I'm going to select template document. SOC one is the one that we've just defined. And after a brief wait, a few fingers across there, and there it is using the new format. So it's very easy to use. Anybody who can use Word can put this together, and that's available in all forms in the system. So very easy to create and modify documents. Okay, back to the presentation. Next is we need to talk about a very current topic of GDPR. Priority has introduced a set of tools and a new consent form to help automate GDPR compliance. For access, erasure and portability, there's a new direct activation, show erase privacy data. When activated, it can act upon the following entities: contact person, lead, candidate, and employee. When activated in display mode, it will generate a spreadsheet displaying the contents of any fields containing data which might be considered personal information. This realizes the dual rights of access and portability. When running in erase mode, the procedure will overwrite the contents of any field considered to be personal. And in addition, the status of the entity will be changed to erased under privacy request. In order to manage the consent to have his or her data recorded, there is now a new consent screen. This can be used to define and manage a set of agreements for which the business requires consent. There's a separate document actually from Priority which describes this new functionality in detail. And as with the release notes and other documents, it can be downloaded using the webinar menu. On to financials. There are numerous additions and improvements to financials, and as I said at the start of the session, we just don't have sufficient time to review them all. So I'll highlight a few of the more useful ones. Firstly, VAT. You can now submit your VAT return online to HMRC. Woohoo! I can see you punching the air to that news. This is via the online interface by running the Submit VAT Return program. Also, there's a new split line item program. It's run by direct activation from inventory documents such as customer shipments and customer returns, and it allows you to easily split the quantity of a line item in two, irrespective of the past balance, so that the quantity in the new line appears in a separate financial document. Also, in fixed assets, there are improvements to the mechanism for closing periods, for depreciation calculations. The asset group parameter has been added, and also closing date accounting and closing date taxes columns have been added to fixed asset groups form. The other improvements and additions are all listed in the release notes as I mentioned. Okay, next on to sales. Firstly, tax inclusive pricing. For B2C businesses, it's now possible to record unit prices with tax in any documents on the sales side, so price lists, invoices, and so on. Very useful if you're dealing directly with the public who want to talk about prices which are inclusive of tax. Also added is another useful feature, which is set text for task codes. It's easy to say that. And this gives us the ability to record set text for task codes that will appear automatically when you open a task. To support this, in order to facilitate this, the notes for task code sublevel form has been added onto the task codes form. That was quite a mouthful. Okay, there's another new feature, which is the address lookup facility. So once again, let's go for a view of this. So I'll switch to my screen. Let's go into the customers form. Okay, so now if I add a new company, let's Tech UK, and if I can remember the postcode of our head office. Now that I've entered the postcode, you'll see there is a new direct activation down here, find address by postcode. If I select that, then I'm prompted with the options. Let's pick that one. And that will then populate the address from in here. Very useful feature. And while we're in here, fairly lightheartedly, let's look at another new feature, which is now within the priority talk. We have obviously the usual text. New feature to make it a bit more friendly is we can now add emoticons, emojis, as they're called. That's how I know look when I get an invoice. Okay, that's pretty much the end of what I was hoping to show in this session. I know it's brief, but as I said, all of this is detailed on the documents that you can download. I'll switch to my questions tab and await any questions. So any questions, please feel free to ask, or if you want to download the documents and have a look and then ask questions, you're more than welcome to do so. All quiet at the moment. I've either done a thorough job or you've all dozed off. Nope, we don't appear to have any questions. Oops. There's a question from one of our valued customers. Is GDPR included as standard? That's a very good question. I only got the document yesterday. I believe it's an additional module, but I will confirm that for you. As is the address lookup. Let's have a look. I think there's another question, but I'm struggling to read it. The question is, how is the postcode field updated? It's a subscription to Priority, who will provide updates to those fields. Any more questions? I'm getting a note that there's an issue downloading the release notes. If you have any problem with downloading, we can email them to you. Okay, so if anybody's struggling to download the release notes, just stick a note on the question and we'll send them directly. Another question about controlling the chat facility. I'm not sure what you mean by can we control the chat facility? Probably easier, because that's a specific one. I'll call you directly about the controlling the chat facility after this. Okay, well, we'll make sure that everybody that's requested the release notes gets them. Thank you for attending. Please come to the webinar page to have a look. Sorry, I've just had a very interesting question from somebody who wants to order a butt hinge. They were obviously paying extremely close attention to my order confirmation. Thank you, Rob. Okay, thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you at the next webinar. Cheers.